Simply Tammy.
It's a blessing that I'm here, I'm alive. No, I never ever have to cry, cause it's something I know will always work for me on my side. Not a thing I even have to fight, all things work together for my good. Life speaks if you listen, it might be sound. Watch the love come alive. Sharing the truth that inspires, sharing the truth that inspires, sharing the truth that inspires. All things work together for my good. Life speaks if you listen, it might be sound. Watch the joy come alive, watch the joy come alive. Sharing the truth that inspires,
Inspired to love, inspired to grow, inspired to heal, inspired to live. Simply Tammy.
Good evening, good evening. It is Simply Tammy, and you are tuned in for another amazing episode of Women Who Win. Thank you so much for joining us again. And this is an exciting time, an exciting episode for a few reasons. So before I tell you all of the exciting stuff and why there's some balloons behind me and bring on my amazing guests, I'm going to encourage you to do what you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Say hello to us in the comments. If you're not local to Greenville, South Carolina, which many people tune in that are not, tell us where you're tuning in from. We like to know who's watching, and we don't know who you are or who's watching with us unless you drop it in the comments, because we are in a platform that does not allow us to see who's watching with us. So we love to know, we love to acknowledge you. So we will bring your name and your comment up on the screen if you say hello to us. Also, please share the broadcast. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're tuning in from the Simply Tammy page, I hope that you have liked and followed that page, but also that you will just click on share and share the video so others can join and tune in with us. If you're here supporting our amazing guest, I'm sure she would want to know that you're watching. So as you're dropping that in the comments, go ahead and click on share after you're doing so. And then lastly, if you are tuning in on YouTube, hopefully you have already subscribed to the Simply Tammy channel. If not, please do so that we can stay connected on that platform. Even if you're not watching on YouTube, if you do frequent YouTube from time to time, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. There's other content out there in addition to these interviews, so I would love to be connected with you on that platform. So my last announcement before reading my guest bio and bringing her up on the screen. Today marks 1 year of me doing these Women Who Win interviews. I actually did the very first interview May 6, 2020, and it's been such an amazing year. I've been able to interview some wonderful ladies that have shared their testimonies, shared their stories. Those of you that have been able to watch have responded in an overwhelming way. I've gotten inboxes, comments, emails, things that have you guys have shared how the guests have impacted your lives, and I thank you so much. Please keep those coming. Those are an encouragement to me as well as my guests. And when you share those with me, if there's specific things about the guests, I do in turn share them with them. So it has been an extreme honor being on this platform and being able to bring those guests to you. So that's why those balloons are behind me. I'm celebrating 1 year. This actually also happens to be episode number 30. And then I'm also celebrating the fact that my name, Simply Tammy, is now a trademark that I own. So it's a big day. It's a big day, a big celebration. And I'm so excited, again, that you're with me and to have my guest. So enough about all of that. I am now going to tell you about the amazing woman that I have invited to be with me tonight. And it's none other than Javion Wood. So I'm going to read her bio and then bring her up before us. Javion Woods is the owner of Life Ease Virtual Assistant and founder of More Than a Mother, which is a nonprofit organization that encourages women to pursue life outside of being just a mother or wife. She is the mother to 10 beautiful children who are her most prized possessions. Along with many other titles that Javion wears, the one she is most proud of is being called mom. Married at age 15, Javion became a young mother and wife in which she dedicated her life to in totality. Shortly after being wed, she found herself in an abusive marriage, both physically and mentally. Due to her religious beliefs, she chose to stay and pray, believing and hoping that one day things would get better. Unfortunately, 8 kids and 10 years later, she realized that things would not change and that she needed to walk away or she would end up dead. In 2009, after fighting for her life, she willed the strength to leave and tried to begin the journey of finding herself and defining the life that God gave her. Choosing to survive and thrive is what she did, and she is still doing that to this day. Javion has since received her degree in business management, started her own business, birthed a women's organization, and is now a published author of an anthology and devotional titled Grace for It. Javion will be releasing her own book titled 10 Hard Truths to Being Mom and a Boss in November 2021. Javion received the 2020 Women of Excellence Award and was featured in the Upstate Business Journal, Volume 10, She's the Boss Spotlight article. She now sits on the governing board of SAVE, Standing Against Violence Every Day, which is a nonprofit organization that fights domestic violence and dating abuse, and she is co-chair vice president for the Urban League of the Upstate Project Ready. She has many philanthropic endeavors and is most proud of her contributions from her nonprofit, More Than a Mother. Javion believes that we all have a story and no one can tell it quite like you. Live to tell it. So, without further ado, I am welcoming to the platform tonight my amazing and beautiful guest, Miss Javion Woods. Good
Hello.
evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank
Hello.
you so much for being here and thank you for saying yes.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Um, I'm absolutely, loving that you're here for interview number 30 and the 1 year, but also the weekend leading up to Mother's Day. Being that being a mother is one of your greatest joys, and you do it so well. So can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to acknowledge some of the people that we have. My sister Cheryl down in Atlanta is saying hello. Tanika Dillard said, congratulations. Thank you, Tanika, and good evening. We have Miko saying hello. We have some others watching. If you guys would just say hi to us in the comments, we'd love to acknowledge you. So we're going to jump right in. So your bio, of course, is full of amazing and interesting things, but one of the most interesting or intriguing from the perspective of a woman is that you were married at age 15.
Yes.
And I was thinking today, I'm like, what was I doing at 15? I'm like, think I just got a permit and had a wreck or something, but being married was not on the agenda. So I want to kind of dissect what is the mindset of a 15-year-old wife?
Um, I would say that it was scary, but I don't really remember the fear of it all.
Mm,
More so because of the church that I was raised in. You were taught and raised to become that. A wife who was a chase keeper of her home. So very, very religious, very, very strict. So you were taught those things. So it wasn't really foreign. Um, it happened very fast. So I became a wife before I became a mother.
mm-hmm,
Um, and so it was scary in the sense of the fact that I was going to become a mom because I did not live with my grandma anymore. And I was at home just walking around this pregnant girl, 15, and no friends, completely isolated from anything that I had once knew. So
mm,
that was very, very tough. But the wife part, I wasn't really fearful in respect to that because
okay.
I was surrounded by so many strong women who did it. Um,
Gotcha.
so it was
So
it was interesting.
it was part of the culture that you were raised in.
Yep.
So even outside of the culture, well, I guess because of the culture, was that your dream and aspiration? Was it let me get married early and start a
No,
family, or was there okay?
no.
What if you had chosen your path? What would you have been doing at 15, or what would you
Uh,
have been doing from 15 to 21? Let's say.
School. So I didn't go to high school. I did 1 year of high school. And I remember going to my principal because I was pregnant and I had missed like 90 days. So while
Mm,
I had all A's, I slept most of my classes. And then with me becoming a wife, I was legally emancipated. So when I was ready to leave school, I left. So he was like, your grades are great, but your absences are just, I mean, it was a lot. It was like half days that ended up totaling up to be about 90 days, but really
mm-hmm.
40 days. And so he was like, you would have to do summer school. And mind you, I'm pregnant. I'm like, my daughter was due in June. I was like, I cannot go to summer school and I'm a new mom. And we didn't believe in fixing hot dogs and sandwiches where we come from. So having to cook a full course meal so my husband could go to work at night and pregnant, emotional, going crazy, and then trying to do school, it wasn't it. So I didn't get to experience anything about high school. So no homecoming games, no prom, no any of those things. So I would have liked to have a little fun, but no, that wasn't it. So I didn't experience any of that. So when I hear people talk about high school and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds real interesting, but I'm gonna tell you. So,
Wow, wow. So you're in this marriage. You've accepted life as is because this is what you know. This is what's normal for those that are around you. This is what you have been groomed into becoming. And at some point, it takes a turn and turns into an abusive situation. How did you navigate that?
it didn't take long. Um, Miles Monroe made a statement one time, and he said that just about all the signs that you see when you're married, you see them before you get married. You just choose to ignore them because you're so in love or you're
Mm,
in that infatuation mode. So
mm-hmm,
everything that I saw that showed up even stronger once I was married, I saw before my marriage. So my husband was raised in a foster home, different foster homes, and he was abused and neglected and had never healed from that. And actually, how we ended up connecting was kind of like his family crazy matched my family crazy. So I didn't have to hide any of my dysfunction from his dysfunction because his dysfunction trumped mine.
mm-hmm,
So it was we tried to fill each other's void and we were nowhere in a position to do that. And so along came this thing that I'm pregnant. And my grandmother was like, well, come on, here. And I was like, I'm not coming without him. So when I came, it got to be, started seeing the controlling things and stuff like that. So after the marriage, hindsight is 2020. Uh, it was using the word to control me and my thoughts and actions. So we were apostolic holiness, so no pants, no jewelry, no makeup, nothing of the world. When I say nothing, nothing, no movies, no cars, no amusement parks, no pools, no beaches, no nothing. And so um, all you knew to do was go to church 6 days out of the week, you know. And it seemed as though the men had a different freedom than the women.
mm-hmm,
And so the infidelity started showing up real fast. It started with those hotlines that you get like a $600 phone bill. One of those. It started with that, and then it started with you're supposed to be home by 7, and you're not home until 3 o'clock the next day, and so those types of things. So
mm-hmm,
when I started questioning it, and I had a right to do so, then it became, submit yourself into your husband, you know, and the using the word to control and manipulate me and my mind. And at the time, I had not yet received the Holy Spirit. So he had. And so I was really, stuck because I didn't want to do anything to dishonor my husband because I was tarrying for the Holy Ghost. So I was, like, you know, I want to book back, but no, I'm still tarrying. So
And I understand what you mean. But I guess just for the sake of anyone that may be watching that may not understand, in a lot of religious sectors or environments, um, if you have the Holy Ghost, which is marked by the evidence of speaking in
yes,
tongues,
yes,
you are labeled different. I've even known or heard people to say that they don't believe that you're saved if you
yeah,
don't.
I was not
So
saved. Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you were looked upon kind of like as an unsaved wife in this
Mm-hmm.
case. Wow. Okay.
Because see, I submitted to all of the rules and regulations before I got the Holy Spirit. Um, so my husband had gotten the Holy Spirit before we even moved back home. So he had
Mm,
a strong gift of prophecy, and I mean
mm,
strong gift of prophecy. And I had the gift of dreams, but I didn't know it at the time. So
mhm,
everything that would happen, I would dream about it and confront him about it. And he never lied to me, but he would deflect. He never
mm.
lied, but would deflect.
Wow.
You're not in a position to ask me these questions, and there was this scripture, you seek the Lord on how you may please your husband. So I'm talking about every scripture that you can think of. The wives are to be chaste keepers at home, and raise your children up in the admonition of the Lord. And so all of those things were used to keep me in a box, and he had the key to it. So it got to the point to where I couldn't go anywhere. So I would go across the street to my pastor's house, which was my godfather, and then he stopped that. So then it was my sisters would come and see me. So he got it to where can't nobody come in the house. So then it was okay. Well, y'all can come and see me, but y'all can't come in the house. Y'all got to see you on the porch. Can't nobody come to the yard. So then it got to where I would walk up to the mailbox to see them. Um, can't nobody come on the property. That's how bad it got. Now, mind you, we weren't. He wasn't old. He wasn't old. He was 18 and I was 15.
Wow.
Um, so it was really, really crazy because wives are to submit themselves unto their husbands. So when I would make my complaint or cry to my pastor, um, if he did stick his head in, it would turn into a big issue because you are to obey your husband. You are to obey yours. So
Mhm,
his rules and how he lived his life were different. They had been married for 30 something years. I had just gotten married. So it just got worse. I mean, it got worse to the point to where the abuse would get worse. And then first baby came, and all of a sudden, 9 months later, well, I mean, 2 months later, 3 months later, like the moment that I slacked up breastfeeding, I would get that one cycle, and I was pregnant again. So I was literally pregnant for 10 years straight because I lost some babies in between. And
wow.
so, um, you use that, who's going to want you with 4 kids, who's going to want you with 5, who's going to want you with 6. Now mind you, here's the other kicker. My religion, where I was raised up, we didn't believe in divorce and remarriage. If you divorced, you had to remain unwed until the day he dies. So yeah, you ain't going nowhere. He would leave. And then, I start getting in my moment like, okay, God, and we'd be praying and fasting and all this stuff, believing that God would deliver him because he was young, and he would come back and do that whole I'm sorry and I repented. And you know it was a whirlwind. It was a
Mhm,
whirlwind. It was a whirlwind.
mm.
I tell people all the time, like, people don't believe me, but I had somebody knock on my door and say this is his baby and leave. Like, I've had that happen. So that's real life for me. So, and then here I am, I got a baby the same age as my baby, 30 days apart. And I've got 2 babies in the grocery store with them, you know?
Mm.
And me and the mama just out here just as crazy as we can be. We best friends now, but it
Wow.
got real. I've had that happen times 4. So it it's a whole nother world mentally.
Mhm.
it's a whole nother world mentally because you don't see anything outside of that. Because you got to remember the way this religion is, you are in the world and not of it. So
Right.
anyone who did not pray with their head covers was out of order. Anyone who wore pants was out of order. Anyone who wore jewelry was out of order. So imagine how many, me going when I first started college, I had to go before the board of community colleges, and I had to ask, I had to take a test, and I was 16. I passed, and they accepted me, and I got a scholarship, and I was in college and doing well, and ended up not making dinner one night because I was tired. Coming home to two babies. Mind you, these are two babies because they 10 months apart. And I had to leave. I had to quit school. So my one area of freedom, where I finally started back talking to some people and seeing people again, and hanging in there. And then I had to leave school.
Mm.
So that for a long time, a long time.
Yeah. Tanika and I brought it up, but she said times four. Yeah, I heard that, Tanika. So yeah, that there were four times that you were confronted with
Yeah. So
external situations. You said.
yeah. So
um.
I have more stepchildren than four, but some of them were conceived during our separation. We were legally like getting a divorce. But I do have three that are my babies. They are my
Mm,
babies. They are my
mm.
babies. I love them to life. I love their mothers to life. And ooh, we so glad we made it over.
I can imagine. That's like some sister wives undercover or something going on.
It was tough. It was challenging because remind you, like I was the only one who um, was living as best I could by the precepts of God. So
Mm,
mind you, when I'm getting the information that it's a baby on the way, that's tough.
mm-hmm,
But once the baby gets here, I have to push all that anger to the side because the child has nothing to do with it. And I know a lot of women who can't do that. A
mm-hmm.
lot of women who wouldn't do that. So I've had babies at my house starting at 3 weeks, and they my babies. They my babies. So
Oh, honey. Yes,
it's
Lord. That's all I got for that. Just,
you make it through. It wasn't easy. It wasn't
yeah,
all.
I
It
mean,
wasn't pretty. It wasn't
right,
pretty. Like
right.
the first one, Lord have mercy. Me and her are both Scorpios, and we both love this man with every fiber of our being.
Mm,
And it was tough. And then for us to get over it and be as close as we are, it is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And my second baby, me and her, we call each other our baby mamas. So I mean, she literally, it was tough for us because of how
mhm,
my poo got here. But once she was born, it was okay. She's a new mom. I done this time 5 or 6 at the time. So okay, well come on over here to the house and let me show you how to do this. And we walked this thing together. Because it was once upon a time when I didn't know what I was doing. So you push all that to the side. Just he
just
ain't gonna
make
break
sure the
you
babies
down.
are
He real
good.
good, honey. Just you gonna figure it out one way or the other. Because you all have that. We all have that thought that he's changed and whatever else we be thinking at the time. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna highlight some of these comments because I think you need to hear them. Tanika said you are an incredible woman, Javion.
thank you.
And Krista said you are you're a special woman, Javion. And then there was another one. Oh yeah, Miko said that is so amazing. Maturity defined. Absolutely, absolutely. So um as you are, because you were in the marriage for 10 years and 8 children. So um that's a lot of weight for someone because by now you're early 20s, 25. And how did you begin to peel back the layers first to, well, I'm gonna break this down. Where did you first find strength to say I got to get out of this? Because
Well,
you at that point, all of your weight was being a mama and trying to keep the home together. So where did the strength come from?
so I was actually 22 with 8 kids.
Okay.
Mhm. It was real.
Okay.
Um, I tell people this all the time that had it not been for my kids, I wouldn't have left. That's how much I love that man. And it wasn't I wasn't in love with his dysfunction, but I was in love with the goodness that I saw inside of him. And so I covered him because I did see good in him, and I still see good in him. But my children started being affected. I'm one of those mothers that I've had to sit in a therapy session and say, I allowed my husband to abuse my kids. That's not an easy pill to swallow.
Mhm.
His definition of discipline was way beyond anything that I was willing to allow my kids to go through.
Mhm.
So when it started getting to the point to where my kids were affected, my daughter was getting hit because she had an attitude like her mama, because she was defending her mom. My son, which I didn't find out until after the fact, went through some things um, because of not wanting to eat. You don't do that to a child, and unfortunately, a lot of that was what he was taught, and that's how he was raised.
Mhm.
And so when I talk to a lot of women, I'm like, what did you allow? Because we don't never want to own up to that. I'm not one to get on here and tear down somebody and say, but I allowed that. I loved him so much that I was like, you know what, we're gonna figure it out and y'all just try to be good and I'm gonna try to put you out of bed early. So if your dad comes home and he's had a bad day, blah blah blah. Let me make sure that he gets his study together. Because my husband was a pastor. He became a pastor. I was the youngest first lady in my organization at the time, and here I am sitting in these meetings with these pastors' wives, and all their husbands cheating. And they just like, girl, you don't give up your position. Like you sit there. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I see some of them to this day. And you see it when you know it, you see it. When you,
Mhm.
when you know it, when you see it. And so I want to say that I remember telling him this. I lost a son. His name is Hosea. Um, I wasn't feeling well. Um, I would have been going on 6 months, and I started not feeling well. And I had my ultrasound coming up because I was high risk because I had all these kids so close. And I told him I wasn't feeling well. I didn't want to go to church. And of course, that word of God was used against me. And so I went to church, called me before the church, and just openly rebuked me and said, you need to stop doubting God. God said the baby is okay. So I went to church, and I just won't feel it. I was like, something ain't right. So I went to my doctor's appointment, and we in there looking at the baby. And mind you, I've been through a lot of ultrasound, and I'm not seeing what I need to see. She's
Mhm.
quiet when they know me. She was quiet, and I wasn't seeing the red flow through or the green, so no signs of life. And I was in the doctor, and she was like, "Okay, we're gonna have a doctor come in and talk." And I knew something was wrong.
Mhm.
And at that time, according to measurements, he had been passed away about 3 weeks so far. And I went home, and they told me my options. One, you can let your body do what it does naturally, or two, we can give you a pill. Um, I wanted to do it naturally because my church, my religion, we didn't believe in medication unless it was life threatening. So I went home and I waited. Nothing happened. So I'm thinking 2, 3 weeks go by. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this baby, I'm praying. And I sat down on the bed and I said, well, this is what the doctor told me. So either you lying or God lying. Which one lying? And he just got so upset because I was like, the baby's not okay. The baby's gone. And I knew then that I was releasing him. And I told him, I said, I'm no longer in love with you, but I will honor my role as a wife. You'll still have your food, your dinner, all that good stuff, but I'm done. And I meant that. I said, I don't care who you out here hanging with. I don't care who you going to be with. I'm not calling your phone. I'm not checking up on you. And I was done. I was done. I literally, emotionally, mentally, spiritually was done. And
Mm.
he called our spiritual father at the time, who was Larry Reed. And he said, she's got the spirit of adultery on her. And he said, daughter, do you have the spirit of adultery on you? I said, I sure do, and a whole lot more spirits. So whatever you, at that point, you get to a place where you like, whatever you want to say and whatever you want to do, you do it. Because I did not think I was going to live to walk out of that. I
Wow.
didn't think I was going to survive that. Um, and my depression was so strong that I was angry with God and I had stopped talking to him.
Mm.
Because in my world, the only thing that I felt like I was valued was through having children.
Mm.
I felt like my body was, going away, and I felt like my life was going to fade away
Wow.
slowly but surely. And so that was a really tough thing. I ended up uh, having him, and they have felt like, at this point in time, everything is dissolved. I did go get an ultrasound. They didn't see anything, so they felt like everything had dissolved and it was just going to pass on through. And when I did end up everything happening, I saw a whole baby on my leg, just fell out and hit my leg. So I was really angry with God then, and I'm screaming like, come help me. And he was like, I can't look at that. So my daughter had to be the one to call the ambulance and feed me cinnamon rolls so I could have something in my stomach before this surgery. I didn't know I was going to have surgery, but I ended up having to have surgery, emergency surgery. And I was done. That was it. That was it for me.
Mm. Wow. Wow. I almost laughed when I saw this comment when you were talking about being a first lady. Tanika said my position would have been exchanged for a jail cell, and Nigel said Tanika deal with facts.
And
Yeah, it's we never know what God will allow us to have to walk through to get to where we are. So you find the strength to eventually leave. Um, what was the process to begin your healing to
ooh.
truly finding Javion?
So once I left, it got worse. So my ninth child, which is, excuse me, that was seven. Solomon's eight. Ezekiel's nine. Okay, so Solomon, that was number seven when I left. I got in a car accident, and mind you, I had lost Hosea, and I did not, you know, think anything of it. But unfortunately, I was raped with a knife to my throat. You know, wasn't nothing new, so I just kind of went on with my life. So I go to I get in a car accident, and they take me in, they're doing all this stuff, and then they're like, hey, I hear them in the hallway like, I don't think she knows. Now my mother's from New York. I could hear her on the phone. Somebody better let me talk to my daughter. And I was in the full body cast or whatever, and they came in and they told me, hey, you're pregnant. And so at the time, my sister-in-law was there, we were out of town. Um, the car accident, we were riding to a church service where he was going to minister, and we got a wreck. The engine ended up pushing in up on me, locking me in the car because I turned my body to protect him. So the steering wheel and everything was pushed in, so it messed up my knee and stuff. He called a ride and left me there so he could go do what the Lord told him to do. So, not thinking nothing of it, I'm like, no, I can't be pregnant because the only time that something had happened was that time. And of course, I had pushed that to the back of my mind.
Mhm.
And I was pregnant and I had conceived a child through rape, and I didn't go to not one prenatal appointment because, mind you, my son before that had passed away, so I definitely didn't think this one was going to make it. And it was when we got home from that service, it was nothing but abuse, fights and fights and fights and fights. So I had to go through that pregnancy, and of course, the doctors threatened to press charges for prenatal neglect and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And but my sister, my oldest sister, I didn't go to not one appointment. I didn't do nothing. My sister went one day and was like, "We gotta get everything for this baby because it's probably time." So by the time I finally did go to the doctor, 2 weeks later I was in labor. So um, that was a tough one. But after that, we had to go through the whole restraining order. We had a mutual a pastor who I adored, that we tried to go through mediation so that he could see the kids. So he could see the kids on Sundays when we came to church and blah, blah, blah. And then it got to where I
Oh,
was
wait
going,
a minute. You still went to the church that he was pastoring?
"Mm-mm, no,
Oh, okay.
step down." Like when he got arrested, like he was facing 18 years. That's how bad it was.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was, the judge was not kind, and she shouldn't have been, you know. Um, he was facing 18 years from all the stuff that the officer told him. Because like when my spiritual dad got on the phone, he just let it all out. Like she been dealing with this for years. And so we ended up going through that, and I had to go with the breaking in the house, raping me. I could smell him. And I had shared a story where on my page a while back where I had an incident happen where he broke in the house, and it just so happened that one of my spiritual brothers stopped by. He about 7 feet tall, and literally tossed him out the house for me. So it wasn't just a walk away, oh, I'm done type thing. I had to really go through a lot. It took him actually getting arrested a few more times for him to finally just back off and leave me alone. So it was a really tough uh, separation, because I didn't want to put my kid's father in jail, but he put himself there.
Mm.
Um, but it was tough. It got real. It got real out here.
Yeah.
My mama
Yeah.
was my mama my mama don't go to the church I go to, so she wasn't thinking the way I was thinking. She was calling some people
She
about to
wanted
hear.
to she wanted to handle things a little bit differently.
Yeah, still do to this day. Mama
Understood.
grieve.
So at what point beyond that, like how many years did it take after you leaving and finally getting free that you were able to press the reset button for Javion?
When I started going to CYM. So
Okay.
Ezekiel was here. Um, I had a really bad distrust for pastors
Mhm.
because a lot of them tried to use my area of vulnerability for their benefit. That's what I'm gonna say on screen. And I was a young, beautiful girl with a whole bunch of kids who needed some help. And so I remember going to the church and meeting Tasha Foster, and
Mhm.
she just wouldn't leave me alone. And I don't know if you remember, Tammy, I ain't talked to a lot of people then. I was
Mhm.
quiet. Kids line up against the wall, wait for me. We out of there. Uh, I was so broken and so wounded. And I remember talking to Pastor Wendell and just telling him everything. I was like, "You can judge me, you know." And he was like, "Just come and sit. Don't do anything." And I
Mhm.
started healing. I started healing, and it took a good 2 years, and it was a rough 2 years because I was in these streets. I was in these streets. I was trying to cover up so much pain. I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. On
Mhm.
one hand, I wanted to be this perfect, perfect mother, and I think that's what crippled me so much is because my kids didn't see one flaw in me, not one. You got this mama who the kids' teachers was like, you don't have to iron their clothes every day. Like I remember Pastor Wendell, meeting with him and First Lady, and uh, I was scared to give my kids raviolis because we didn't believe in that. He was like, if they want to eat raviolis, open up some raviolis and give them some raviolis. And I'm like, really, just that simple? So scared of judgment. It got to the point
Mhm.
um, I was so scared of somebody taking my babies away because that's all I had. So it would be like every Saturday I would have to go buy outfits so that they look decent when we went to church. Because I didn't want anybody to assume that I couldn't take care of my kids. And it was hard to say I need help. And I hardly ever did. So it was literally uh, Tasha Foster and Ellie Christina,
Mhm.
who broke down a lot of walls. And when I'm telling you, I would just lay it all out. Where you been? At the club. I didn't never go to a club, but I went to a sugar shack, so it was the same difference. So, but it was the same difference. And all right, you come. Yeah, I'll be to church. I'm coming. So
Mhm.
it was that. But I started healing at CYM. I started finding my purpose there. Um,
Mhm.
it felt good to walk into church and people smiling at you.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
oh, people keep smiling at me, but it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
So, as you begin to find yourself as a woman and begin to learn freedom, um, the God kind of way, I'll say, when did you know that you were then ready to begin to build? Because at some point, you were able to say, all of this that I have accumulated over the years, all of this trauma, all of this pain,
Mm.
now that I have a different identity, I can now begin to build upon this and start an organization and start a business and get a degree. So, um, at what point did you start seeing yourself blossom? Because freedom comes and it's a shedding, but the blossoming is a whole nother process.
Ooh, I went through everything that I judged another woman for.
Mm, that's good. That's good.
Everything. I had only been with one man. My kids were by the same father. I had never
Hmm.
been drunk. I had never been out. At one point in time, I had never wore pants. You name it, I went through it. And my whole world shifted because all I kept hearing was, he sees me as I ought to be. He still loves me. Wait, what? How? So everything I judged another person for, God said it's hard to kick against the prick. When I tell you I got knocked off that horse, I got knocked off that horse. And I learned a deeper revelation of love. I learned it. I thought I had it, like y'all, people were like, oh my God, you just accepted these babies. That's one level. And forgiving him, that's another level. But that empathy, that ability to see into someone and not what they're doing. It's like, oh, I done been there, I done done it. Now I ain't done everything, but I done just about, I done done enough for me. How about that? So, but I'm still not gonna judge you based off of where you are because you don't have to stay here. And it literally took that for me to say, wait a minute, there's more to this. And when I wanted to do more than just be a mama, I wanted to do more than just cook, clean, iron. My OCD was at an all-time high. I wanted to do more, and I was like, you can do this. I was out here doing this and doing that and helping other people in so many areas, but I would shrink because I was so ashamed of my actions in those 2 to 3 years that I was out there just doing whatever. And it wasn't bad. Like I would go out, we would go to places, and then my best friend, I'd be like, let's go in the bathroom and pray. That's just how bad it was. And she would just be like, oh my God, come on, let's go pray. She tolerated me and my double-mindedness. So, but
So you in the sugar shack in the bathroom
I was
talking to
in
the
Motown. I was in Motown. I done prayed for so many people in Motown. It don't make no sense. Listen, like, let's just say a quick prayer. Lord, please cover us. We thank you. In Jesus' name, no guns, no bullets. Let me get home safe to my babies. Like, that's how real it was because all
Wow.
I knew was what I heard about. All
Mhm.
I knew was
Mhm.
that I heard about people getting shot, and I just wanted to make it home. And so it would be like, we would get home at 2, 3 in the morning. I'd be like, God, that brought us home. We're going to church in the morning. Make sure you look, where you at? Are you on the way to church? Like, we got to give God thanks. So
Mhm.
shower, I'd be at church, and then my hair smell like Motown. I, we gotta do better. So it took a shift because I realized that I was so much more than just
Mhm.
that. And it took a while. It took a journey. I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
3 or 4 years.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. So, how has your experiences shaped your parenting today?
Ooh, girl, these are a whole other generation of kids. I'm just trying not to be on the orange is the new black. Okay. So it's a double-edged sword. My older children were raised in such a strict environment. Um, and I believe it gave them a different perspective on reverence.
Mhm.
Um, my younger kids have a bit more freedom to be children, and I hate that my older kids didn't have that freedom.
Mhm.
My kids couldn't play in church. Yeah, y'all remember they had to line up in that hallway. You
Mhm.
can't go by that wall. That's how it's always been. So to have Ezekiel, Harmony, and Solomon, and um, a lot more patience is needed to deal with Ezekiel. My older kids get frustrated, like, "Mama, he get away. You would never. Oh, he could have snacks. We couldn't have snacks. You know, it's different. Um,
Mhm.
but I had to free myself from some stuff.
Mhm.
I have boundaries, and you're gonna respect them. So if I'm tired, I'm tired because I'm working and I'm paying these bills. It used to be that I would drag myself through the mud just to make sure they didn't see a flaw in me, and that's not realistic. It's not
Mhm.
realistic. I get tired. I'm human. Um, and I can say this because it's just part of me. I got into a very brief marriage. I went from one end of the spectrum to another end of the spectrum, to one extremely aggressive to extremely passive, and that was not.
Mhm.
I knew it wasn't it. I knew it wasn't it. So I got out of that as fast as I could, and it was peaceful and graceful, and I'm grateful for it. But teaching them that it's okay to not deal with it, like if it's not serving you and you know it, why hang in it? And a lot of the traditions and things that we honor, they're not really stable. There are, I don't want to say I made it through, but I got to come through with a broke back if I knew that I could have walked away from it. You know, so people don't think that there's peace in uh, being single, or peace in saying no, or peace in walking away. And there's a lot more peace in that. And I'm not going to hang on to something just to say I got somebody. I don't care what somebody, oh, wasn't you just? Yeah, I was, and I'm not no more. So it's a lot more freedom in me. I have boundaries. I take my time. I go away. I say no more. I
Mhm.
used to be extremely a yes mom to overcompensation of their dad not being there.
Mhm.
Trying to get them everywhere I could get them, have them everywhere I could have them, not disappoint them, not let them see me flawed. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm human just like you are, because you're gonna get older and you're gonna become parents, God willing, and you're gonna have some times where your kids gonna be like, and guess what? You gotta heal because they're gonna hurt your feelings, they're gonna break your heart. You gotta heal from it, you gotta move on, and you gotta stay out of jail.
Mhm. Staying off the Orange is the New Black is your goal. You say. um. So I know you have a you participated in an anthology. You have another book coming out. Um. So talk about some of your endeavors that you have put into place to now serve other women.
So the book that's coming out is the 10 hard truths to it's 10 hard truths to becoming a mom, to being a mom boss, right? And we talk about being a family centered mompreneur. Um, mm, so my energy was misguided in the approach of I had so many kids, I have to be able to take care of them by any means necessary. Accepting way too many clients on my plate. So my level of excellence was falling below par than what I would have preferred. Um, Not having enough time for them, accepting clients or jobs or contracts that just didn't serve me. It didn't serve my personal life. It didn't serve me as being a mom. And so now I try to share all of that wisdom with women because um, you have to get from one place of I have to do this to I'm going to allow what is meant to be to come to me. And so you release the fear and the strain of I gotta protect this because this is what I'm called to do. Because God's already has it planned out. He already has it written out. And so it's a freedom in trusting in his will. It's a freedom in trusting in his purpose. And it's a freedom in having boundaries. I had clients who I at one point in time could call me any time of the night, not no more. So it's just that teaching women about that balance and about loving you, because you'd be surprised how many things you start saying no to when you start loving this right here. Because kids gonna grow up and they gonna move out. Husbands may come and go. You have to be able to live with you, and you have to be happy with that and be okay with that. And that's what I'm trying to communicate in this book.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to bring up your website. So if people want to connect with you, they
Yeah.
can visit injavischair.com. Um, and is there like an email subscription that they can connect, or will it direct them from there to your other social media platforms to follow you? And
Yes, it'll redirect to everything.
okay.
Everything's there. That's my life coaching page. And right now we are trying to work through helping domestic violence survivors find their place.
Mhm.
And so I'm really, really happy and grateful for that. So
Good, good. Such an amazing story of God's grace and just his goodness and his keeping ability to not only have kept you physically through what you walked through, but for you to come out and still be in your right mind and um, emotionally sound and growing and knowing where um, I'd heard you mention therapy earlier, to even know and allow yourself to heal and be refilled and refueled in those places that you were torn down in during that period of time. So I applaud you
thank
um,
you.
for that. So if you had to share as we get ready to wrap up, before we do our final, I will share, if you guys didn't hear in the beginning, is 1 year of Women Who Win
Yeah.
interviews, and you guys, this was interview number 30. And kind of as an offshoot of these interviews, to have deeper conversations with women, and some of you that have connected and participated and wanted to meet some of my guests and have some Q&A time with them, I created a community. So on the bottom of the screen, I have my website going across, simplytammy.com /connect gives you the page that you can go on to learn about the community. It's called Our Common Thread. Some amazing things that have taken place and are scheduled to take place over in that community. So visit the website, simplytammy.com. Make sure, again, on Facebook, you like and follow. Make sure on YouTube, you subscribe. Stay connected because, as you know, we'll be back next week with another amazing guest. So we want Javion to share with us any last words of inspiration, encouragement, motivation. What would you want to leave with those that are watching and that will watch the replay?
Um, just love you and own yourself. Just own it, own all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the oops, I'm sorry. Don't, Lord, keep it in the closet. Jesus, help me own it all. Just own it all. Because
Mm,
once you own it, you can love yourself authentically. There's
absolutely.
nothing about you. Every scar, every wound, you can just love yourself.
Mm. So owning your whatever, your story, your trauma, the good, the bad, the ugly,
Yeah.
is your doorway into authenticity. Thank you for that. I like that nugget. So I appreciate you again coming
Thank
on and being
you.
so transparent. I know that from the comments, everyone that listened was inspired, was encouraged, was motivated, all of those things. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for your comments. And just thank you guys for being with me for this year. I have not taken it lightly for any of the guests that have said yes to the platform. I think all of you are amazing. And I think that really, as women, many of us are holders of some amazing stories. Like Javion said in her bio, we all have a story to tell, and no one can tell it like we do. We just have to live to tell it. And not only living to survive, but living and thriving to tell it, knowing that everything that we went through. It's all seeds in the ground, manure in the ground, water in the ground, all of
Yep.
those things to make you who you are and who you are becoming. So this platform, we will continue to share truths that inspire, as you hear in the intro song. So I am honored and I'm grateful to share this with you, Javion. Again, thank
Thank
you. I'm just
you.
going to ask you to hang out with me for a few moments. And
Okay.
thank you guys for all of the congratulations and the thank you. I'm so honored that God dropped this on me a little bit over a year ago, and the yes has continued, and I'm looking forward to what he has to come. So you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers that are watching and that will watch. Happy Mother's Day to you, Javion.
Thank
So we're
you.
going to go ahead and say good night.
Good night.